First contact, a misjudged species. The sky above the council station was filled with cold light coming from distant stars that had burned for ages. Unseen by human eyes, far away from Earth on a station hidden behind a frozen moon, a group of alien observers sat in silence watching the planet through long-range monitors and memory scans. They were part of a high council formed by 13 intelligent species of the galaxy who believed in balance, order, and quiet study of lifeforms before any form of contact. They had watched humans for decades, listening to their languages, observing their cities, scanning their history through weak signals drifting into space to them. Earth looked like a place filled with noise and confusion, a blue world where fire met water and reason was often defeated by emotion. The aliens made jokes about humans, calling them soft creatures who cried too much, fought too often, and loved things that served no logical purpose. They saw humanity's wars as short bursts of chaos and their peace as unstable moments that never lasted long. One alien, named Kale, known for his calm thinking, gave his report to the council, saying that humans were clever in short ways, but lacked long vision. He said they were no real threat because they destroyed each other more than any enemy could. The others agreed and approved a field team to go closer and gather final proof before the report was sealed, and Earth was marked as low danger. The scout team consisted of 5 members chosen from different species, each trained in silent study and peaceful contact. They entered Earth orbit with stealth that made their ship vanish from radar and light. From there they picked a remote region near mountains where human activity was low but signals showed military practice. They landed at night and used cloaking shields to hide near a training zone filled with machines and uniformed humans moving in teams. The scouts watched with quiet interest as the humans carried weapons, spoke in short commands, and moved like a river of purpose. At first it looked simple, humans firing at paper targets and dummies made of rubber, shooting bullets into sandbags and practicing rescue drills. The aliens laughed among themselves, thinking this was all Earth had. But then the humans changed the scene. An officer gave orders for full simulation of high-threat response. Soldiers took positions, armored trucks moved into lines, and robotic drones flew above like metal birds. Then came the call for Overkill protocol. The scouts heard the word and tilted their heads, confused by the term. The officer explained to the soldiers in strong voice. This was a scenario where normal rules no longer applied, where the enemy had done the unthinkable, and the answer must be final and overwhelming. What followed was not a simple show of power. It was a plan made of layers and force that shocked the alien minds. The soldiers moved in patterns so sharp that the scouts could not find any. Wasted step bombs placed with cold care detonated with earth-shaking rage. Flame weapons cleared wide paths with fire that roared like beasts. Satellite-linked systems locked on targets beyond the eye and fired with no pause. The sky became part of the battlefield, with sonic jets ripping through the clouds, dropping precise strikes guided by unseen hands. The Overkill protocol did not aim to fight the enemy, it aimed to erase the enemy's ability to exist. One of the alien scouts whispered that no species they knew ever trained like this. Another said this was madness and fear mixed together. But the leader of the scout group remained still, eyes locked on the field, where smoke rose like warning. They watched as medics rushed in, as engineers rebuilt positions, as drones carried new supplies before the old ones cooled. There was no celebration when the drill ended, no cheering, no pride, only quiet reports filed and orders given for cleanup. The humans packed their machines and walked away like nothing unusual had happened. The alien leader looked at his team and spoke with voice low and certain, saying they had misjudged Earth. These humans were not only prepared to fight, they were trained to destroy threats with such force that even thinking of harm could trigger fury. He said this overkill was not weakness or chaos, it was belief in action so fast and final that no second chance would come. He said they had seen enough as their ship rose back to orbit and vanished into space. The scouts did not speak. Each one kept the memory of what they had seen: the fire, the speed, the silence after the storm. Back on the council station, the report was marked incomplete, and the discussion postponed. The humans were no longer seen as low threat. They were no longer a small species on a blue planet. They were something else, something dangerous, not because of hate or power, but because of how they responded when pushed. The council waited for the scouts to explain more, but the leader only said one thing: never provoke a species that trains for overkill, never mistake emotion for weakness, and never assume that peace means they forgot how to end war. The test's humanity's line in the sand. The alien council did not act fast after receiving the first report. They called another meeting in the deep hall where all voices could be heard as one. There were doubts and debates, some leaders thinking the scouts had been too impressed by a small show of fire. Others said maybe the humans were just afraid of future wars and had built such drills from fear, not power. A few remained quiet, remembering how humans had survived many times when they should not have. The one who had led the scout mission stood again with firm eyes and calm voice, and said humans were not just survivors, they were planners of last chances. They were builders of final answers. Still, the council wanted proof beyond one simulation, so a plan was made, not for war, not for battle, but for a simple test, something small that would show how humans react when touched by a silent hand from the sky. The chosen method was to send a probe close to Earth orbit, nothing dangerous, just a silent observer with fake signals making it look lost or broken. It would drift near a human satellite and wait. The test was approved and launched within days. The probe left its station and entered human space with coded steps to avoid alert. But Earth noticed, not after hours, not after days, but within minutes. Their systems began to respond. The alien probe received a signal with unknown code, then another in stronger frequency, then silence. Then came movement. Satellites above Earth began to shift, some moved away, some locked positions. As if shielding something, ground stations turned their focus toward the sky. Radars stretched wide, listening for more. A human drone flew near the probe and scanned it from close range. Then it turned and left. The alien watchers felt calm again, thinking perhaps the humans had seen nothing. But then another drone came and stayed, not moving, not blinking. Moments later, 2 human spacecraft appeared, not warships, just watchers with wide eyes and sharp ears. Then came the warning, simple signal. Short message: leave orbit or response will follow. The council received the relay with mixed thoughts. Some called it bluff, some said wait. But one alien commander felt the humans were playing a trick, showing strength too early. He ordered a minor action without permission from the full council. He sent a small pulse that shut down one of Earth's old satellites, something unused but still part of the network. He called it harmless, just a tap, nothing more. But Earth did not see it that way. Within moments, they reacted. Power grids across defense sectors shifted to active code. Red began to flash inside silent command bases under oceans and mountains. Old systems long hidden began to move. The humans did not speak to the aliens. They did not send another warning. They started to prepare their systems, looked for the source of the pulse, and when they found the probe, they locked onto it with cold focus. Not 1, not 2, but 10 human eyes watched from space and ground. They moved, not like creatures caught off guard, but like hunters waking from sleep. The probe tried to back away, but was followed. The alien council sent a message ordering retreat, but the commander who gave the pulse still waited, still believed the humans would stop. They did not. One of Earth's test crafts launched from a silent site and flew high beyond clouds in speed. It passed near the probe, then released a burst of code that made the alien machine shut down and fall into quiet. The humans had not destroyed it, but they had taken it apart without touch. Then came a broadcast, not from leaders, not from media, but from a low channel meant only for emergencies. A voice spoke in simple terms, saying Earth does not respond lightly to threats, that all actions are measured, and that peace must be equal from both sides. The voice ended with a single phrase: push again, and we will answer without mercy. The alien council was shaken, not by the power shown, but by the speed, the calm, and the quiet behind every move. They realized something that had not been in their first report. The humans did not act from fear, they acted from plan. Their systems were not built to protect cities. They were built to stop wars before they began. Old recordings from Earth were pulled from memory. They watched humans send machines to planets with no life, just to test fire and force. They saw records of weapons never used but kept alive in secret vaults. One video showed a missile built not to destroy a target but to destroy every trace of the target's location. It was called a final option. The alien council now saw that what humans called overkill was not madness, it was balance. To them, overkill was not failure of control, it was control without weakness. The commander who had acted alone was removed from post and placed under watch. No punishment was spoken, but the silence around him was loud. Other species in the council began to rethink their view of Earth. A few asked if contact should be made now while humans were still open. Others said no, not yet. The one who had led the scout team said wait. He said humans had not yet revealed their true limit. He said they had only reacted, not attacked. And that was the part which made them dangerous. They held back, they warned, and that meant they had much more to give, if pushed. The probe was returned to the council by a private signal from Earth. It came in pieces, taken apart, studied, then left where it could be found. No message, no pride. Only the result, a silent reminder that humans had watched the Watchers and chosen not to strike first. The stars above Earth remained still, but the thoughts within the council had begun to turn. For the first time in many years, a new name was written in the book of rising species, and beside the name of humanity was marked a FERC. Note in red, prepared for all merciful until forced built for overkill, the mistake, poking the beast day. Silence grew inside the council chamber, but it was not peace. It was the silence of tension, the kind that waits before something heavy falls. Many members now accepted that humans were not weak, not blind, not unprepared. Still a few voices kept rising, voices that did not believe in fear. They believed in order through strength and strength, through dominance. One of these voices belonged to a commander who had never lost a battle in all his years. He had led fleets across cold sectors, broken pirate nests, crushed rebellions without mercy. To him, the idea of fearing humans was a wound to pride. He believed the humans had shown teeth only because they were left alone too long. He said they needed to be reminded who held power in this galaxy. The council warned him, but he answered with old words from forgotten wars. Respect is earned through pressure, understanding is born from fire. He made a plan not large, not loud, just a small act to spark that would test how deep human patience could go. The commander ordered his ship to slip into orbit using cloaked fields that wrapped the hull in shadows. From above Earth he watched the quiet world spinning below, so alive yet so unaware. He chose a small satellite, old and slow, with weak signals, something that looked abandoned. He sent a focused burst of energy that fried the satellite's core systems and turned it into space. Dusty believed it was a move too soft to cause alarm. He believed wrong. Within 2 minutes. Ground stations across Asila. Earth changed their code colors from green to red. Watch lists became activation lists. Civilian networks rerouted through hardened lines. Stealth drones took flight from desert bases and icy ports. Satellites that once scanned weather now turned to seek threats. The alien ship detected something strange. Not noise, not weapons, but deep movement. The kind of movement that means layers are shifting. The kind that means the surface is just a door and something beneath is waking up. The commander watched and waited, thinking it was all show. Then he saw a new object rise from a hidden location. It was not large, but it moved with purpose. It crossed the sky with no trail, no sound, just speed and intent. It stopped near his ship and hovered. The commander gave orders to scan it, but the scan failed. He tried to send a message, but no signal came back. Then the object sent its own signal. Not a threat, not a demand. It sent coordinates, 3 sets of numbers, one pointing to the location of the destroyed satellite, one pointing to the alien ship's hidden route, and one pointing deep into the core of the ship. This meant only one thing: humans had already mapped him. They knew, and they wanted him to know that they knew. Panic did not take him yet. Pride stood firm. He stayed silent, ordered his ship to hold position. Then the stars above him shifted. 3 more human crafts appeared, not close, not armed, just visible. They stood like statues. A message came through low and clear. You have breached trust. Leave now. No war, no rage. Just a command. The commander felt something in that message. Not fear, not anger, control. A calm so powerful it was colder than violence. He hesitated but did not reply. He waited again. Then something new appeared. A line of satellites, once dark, now lit up with synchronized pulses. They formed the shape a net, and in that net, the alien ship sat without knowing how it got caught. The commander now felt the weight of his choice. He reached out to the council, sent a private line. He asked for backup. None came. The council had decided in silence that this was his burden. He had poked the beast. Now he must see how sharp its claws truly were. On Earth, command centers monitored the situation without emotion. Operators read numbers, not names. They followed steps, not feelings. Protocols activated in layers based on decisions written years ago. No one asked why. No one spoke of war. They only moved, and in that movement the alien commander saw something he had never seen before. Precision not driven by fear. Power not driven by hate. Purpose that did not shake or stumble. His ship systems began to fail, not from attack but from signals too complex to block. He saw his own data being rewritten piece by piece. The humans were not destroying his ship. They were dismantling it without touch. One of his crew said the humans had taken full control. Another said their power cores were being drained through unknown means. The commander gave the order to retreat, but it was too late. The ship began to fall slowly, not by force, but by design. The humans let it descend near the ocean, guiding it with invisible hands. The ship landed in water, unharmed and sealed in a bubble of pressure that kept it whole. No attack, no capture, just a warning shaped like mercy. Above them, the human crafts faded back into the sky. A final signal came through. This is not your battlefield. Do not return. The commander sat inside his quiet ship, hearing only the breath of machines. He had tried to show power and had found something beyond power. Discipline. Earth returned to peace. The event was never shared with the world. It became another quiet note in the book of human defense. But in the council chamber, far beyond stars, a message echoed louder than any voice. Do not test what you do not understand. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Do not poke the beast if you are not ready to be swallowed whole. The Overkill protocol. After the ship fell silent in Earth's ocean, the alien council sat without words. No reports were demanded, no orders were sent. Each member sat in their own thoughts, trying to understand what they had seen. A single human response had brought a ship down without fire, without destruction. It had ended without war, and yet it had shaken every soul in that chamber. The commander who had disobeyed orders was placed in isolation. No punishment spoken, yet all knew what that silence meant. He had touched a line not meant to be crossed, and the humans had responded with something colder than fire. The council now saw what the scout leader had tried to explain from the beginning. Humans were not like others. They did not build for balance. They built for finality. They trained not to protect but to prevent. They prepared not for battle but for conclusion. Across Earth, drills resumed. Normal people lived their lives unaware of the storm they had just avoided. But somewhere deep under the ground, far from public eyes, a hidden base lit up with silent red. This place was not shown on any map, not known by any government. It belonged to a forgotten division formed in old times when fear of the unknown lived in every shadow. The base was home to a system called Shield Black. Shield Black had one purpose: to observe the stars and wait for signals that matched a pattern. The pattern was simple: unseen technology, silent presence, unapproved contact. When Shield Black confirmed the alien presence and the silent breach, it did not panic. It followed what had been written long ago. It activated the Overkill protocol. This protocol was not designed by generals or scientists. It was created by survivors of past wars, by those who had seen too many last moments. The idea behind it was clear: if humanity ever faces a force that does not understand peace, then humanity must show what it means to be unforgiving. The protocol had layered steps that could end threats before they began, but first came the message. Earth sent a signal, not to the ship, not to the council, but to the galaxy itself. The signal was simple. It showed the encounter with the alien ship. It showed how humans responded. It showed the restraint, the control, the mercy, and then it showed the line: cross this again, and response will follow. The message ended with silence and a small tag attached to it. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The message reached distant systems, across colonies, across listening posts, across stations that thought Earth was still a young planet. Now they saw Earth not as a blue ball of life, but as a silent volcano waiting to erupt if touched the wrong way. In response to the signal, the Council called an emergency session. Not all species agreed on what to do, but none wanted another mistake. They decided to send a small peace signal, a craft without weapons, just one voice to meet the humans and explain that not all wished harm. But before they could send it, something happened. An object moved through the edge of a star system near Earth. It was not alien, it was human. A deep space test craft named Horizon Edge. Horizon Edge was not a warship. It was built for one mission: to deliver proof that Earth could reach, proof that Earth could act if needed. The ship moved with speed no one had recorded before. Its engines burned without smoke, without trail. Inside it held a weapon not made to kill but to remind. It carried a drill launcher that could fire into the core of an asteroid and break it from within. Its target was a floating rock named Echo Stone, a dead body in space, large enough to be seen from 3 systems. When Horizon Edge arrived near Echo Stone, it sent a signal to the Council: watch this and remember. The drill fired not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each hit went deeper than the last, until the rock broke like glass. Not into chunks, not into dust. It disappeared in light. No sound reached the stars, but the message was heard. Humans had shown that even their warnings had weight. This was not a strike, this was a preview. The Council fell quiet again. Every leader now felt the edge of a truth they had tried to avoid. Humanity had weapons not used, not needed, but kept alive. Not to win a fight, but to end one. Some alien leaders now argued for peace, others argued for distance. A few still whispered of attack, but those whispers faded when one elder from an ancient race spoke. He said humans did not love war, but they understood it. He said humans did not hate enemies, but they would remove them without pause if needed. He said their overkill was not just power, it was belief. A belief that if peace is broken, then nothing should remain of the one who broke it. Back on Earth, no celebrations took place, no news was shared with the people. The test was logged, the data was saved, and Horizon Edge returned to silence. One man in a quiet office read the final report and signed his name with steady hand. He looked out the window and watched a bird fly across the sky. He said to himself, we never wanted this, but if they bring it, we will finish it. In space the stars kept shining, but now they shined over a galaxy that knew something new. Earth was not a place to visit without care. It was not a planet to poke with curiosity. It was a world that waited, a world that remembered, a world that would never strike first, but if forced, would never strike last. The withdrawal, fear that echoes the space around Earth became quiet again, but this quiet did not bring comfort. It brought a shadow that reached across systems and into minds that once believed in control. Alien councils across sectors rewrote their files, updated their warnings, changed their charts. Where once Earth was marked as a simple blue planet, it was now red with caution. No official war was declared, no weapons fired, no fleet sent, but every intelligent species that received the human signal began to whisper in secret rooms, behind locked doors. Some called it overreaction, some called it strategy, but those who understood power knew what they had seen. A species that had survived itself, a species that had learned not from victory, but from pain. They had trained not to conquer, but to erase any force that dared threaten their home. Inside the grand chamber of the oldest alien alliance, The vote was taken without delay, without argument. A new status was written. Earth Level 10 unapproachable threat. No vessel shall enter their orbit, no signal shall cross their boundary, no action shall be taken that might awaken their protocols. All travel routes were redrawn to pass far from the solar system. All scout programs were ordered to erase Earth from their targeting lists. In a cold room with glowing walls, an alien youth looked up at his elder with confusion in his voice and question in his eyes. Why fear them so much when they do not chase us, when they do not even know how close we came? The elder placed his hand on the wall and answered, not with fear, but with memory, because they do not chase, because they wait, because their silence is not weakness, it is design, because they know that if they must fight, it will not be for victory, it will be for ending. He said humans are builders of last steps. They are not here to play the game. They are the line where the game ends. Back on Earth, life moved on without change. Children went to schools, workers filled the cities, voices filled markets, birds crossed the sky like always. The people did not know of the message sent across stars. They did not know of the ship that fell into the sea, or the asteroid that vanished like smoke. But deep under mountains and oceans, machines stayed awake, systems stayed warm, watchers stayed ready. They did not rest because they were not built to rest. They were built to remember. In a hidden room, a man watched an old recording, a moment from human history when the world had almost burned. The screen showed soldiers covered in dirt, leaders arguing over codes, children hiding in shelters. Then the screen went black and a single word appeared: enough. The man turned away and opened a new file, a plan that had never been used, but always kept a plan, not to defend, not to strike, but to ensure that if Earth ever fell, its enemies would fall with it. This was the true heart of the Overkill protocol, not rage, not revenge, balance. The kind of balance that says if you take our sky, we will take your stars. In distant space, a traveler passed near a silent relay once used to listen to human radio waves. He paused and asked his guide why that relay was turned away from Earth, why no signals were collected anymore. The guide answered, because Earth is not for watching. Earth is for leaving alone, because they watched us watching them, and they did not like it. And when they responded, they did not send fire. They sent silence, and that silence was louder than war. In hidden corners of the galaxy, some dared to doubt. They whispered plans of invasion, blueprints of weapons, ideas of attack. But none acted, because the moment anyone looked toward Earth with intent, they remembered the asteroid that disappeared. They remembered the ship that never burned yet never returned. They remembered the message sent not with pride, but with warning. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Time moved forward, and humans kept walking. They reached new planets, built new stations, grew stronger. But their Overkill protocol remained untouched, not because it was forgotten, because it was complete, because it did not need updates, because it had already answered every question. One alien scholar once asked in a book, what makes humans different? Why do they scare us when they are not the strongest, not the oldest, not the most advanced? And the answer was written in quiet ink. Because they plan for defeat in a way that defeats cannot stop. Because they turn endings into weapons. Because they do not fear destruction. They prepare to share it. This is what aliens learned. This is why they turned away. Not because they could not win, but because humans would not lose alone. They would take everything with them, not in hate, not in madness, in calculation, in silence and overkill. The stars blinked and spun above Earth like always. But behind those stars, behind the light, something ancient now moved differently. A respect born not from love, not from peace, but from understanding. Earth was not the center of the galaxy, but it was the place no one would touch again, the end.